Good morning and welcome. Off the Press is here again with the top headlines in our newspaper review. I'm not doing this alone. I have a guest with me, Gospel Obele. He's an economist. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. All right, we have some papers now. We have The Punch, we have Vanguard, we have This Day and some others. We'll just start with the Punch newspaper. The big screamer here is FG to pay failed investors 736 billion naira to repossess discos. That's on page 2 of the paper. You have the 3 riders there. I'll just take one of them. Review power sale, but don't politicize exercise. That's ECAN speaking. You have another rider on 11 distribution firms declared technically insolvent. Okay, there's a pictorial reportage, canal on Fashiro Street, Surulere. That's not a very pleasant sight. There is it on the screen. Just beneath it, you will see Dixon, Laibe exchange words over Bielsa governor poll. We also have Labour seeks Buhari's intervention on minimum wage. EFCC arraigns Atiku's lawyer's son-in-law on money laundering. Details of that is on page 4. If you've been following our news, you would have heard a bit about it, but don't worry, we have a guest here to help us make sense of some of these headlines. Treatment, El-Zakzaky accuses FG, US of interference, envoy intervenes. Army, police disagree as drunk soldier killed 3. Police form Southwest Interstate Alliance to combat banditry. And at the very top, above the masthead of The Punch, is Magu may be Oshibanjo's puppet, says fugitive ex-AGF Adoke. FG condemns pastor's killing in China, demands probe. Bonu donates Sambisa forest for Ruga. That's interesting. NECA LCCI folds Buhari's directive on food importation. On the back of The Punch, we have Pastor Adeboye still owes Nigerians more. I'll take that again. Pastor Adeboye still owes Nigerians more. A bit of sports is also captured there, and the not too pleasant side of potholes in Mushin in Lagos is captured on the back page of the paper. Back to you, Gospel. Which of these would you want to pick on first?
First of all, it's the conversation on the food importation.
Okay.
It's quite interesting, really, because the conversation is to ban access to forex and then to ban food importation in Nigeria. I know the overall goal is to seek to become a self-sufficient nation in terms of producing our own food and consuming ours. But, you know, we are still... I would rather say that this is a good initiative, but I think the timing is particularly not the right time, you know, to take that long range of shot. You can ban this, the ban on food importation can happen in stages, not that one fixed, taking the forex market out of it and all of that. So I think we need to still get a lot of things right before you can completely ban food importation, because we are still an import-dependent economy, and that alone tells you that it's a lot of things are feeding that, you know, so you don't have the right infrastructure to even get your products or your goods and services or even the food you produce up to that quality in terms of nutritive value and all of that. And even if you've done that, we don't have the right farm-to-market strategy, you know, that meets the needs of the people where it matters the most. So there's still lots of bottlenecks on that value chain, as it were, you know, in ensuring that we attain that food security and we are really efficient, self-sufficient as a nation. So for me, I think it's pretty much an aggressive move, and on all sides, and it's as much as possible that we have to get to this point where we consume our own, you know, banning food and all that can happen in stages, not that one line, you know, ban and all that. So a lot of things still needs to be done internally before we can say for sure that, yeah, it's that time to ban it 100%. What you did, the flip side or the implication of this is that there will be more pressure on FX, because now you're banning from the official window only. So it means that people would look for other ways to find the money. You're probably encouraging smuggling, and there are more cost implications, than the problem itself you're trying to solve. So in seeking to solve our own problem, which is food security, we need to first deal, we create more. But so we need to first deal with our own home-based issues and ensure that the process is efficient from end to end, and then if you're going to ban in stages, not necessarily that one phase out. Yeah.
Okay, which other headline would you want to talk about?
I saw something on Labour seeks Buhari's intervention on minimum wage.
Yes.
I think I was here sometime earlier in the year when the minimum wage was approved, and I spoke to it gladly that the conversation is not just the minimum wage. A lot of things are happening, because even the minimum wage itself would not in any way elevate the status of the average worker. These are things that, the fact that we're even having the back and forth on them, it's just funny and interesting, because you have a currency that is strongly dependent on the international oil market fluctuations and all of that. So because you don't have the purchasing power or the purchasing value of a Nigerian currency is pretty low, no matter how much you increase the minimum wage, people are still, evolve. It's like a vicious circle, And then the laborers in themselves, every month they've found a way to really survive, like borrowing money and all the like. So yes, the minimum wage may be a necessary step that has been taken, to cut that cost of living, to, cushion the effects of survival and all that, but it's not a sufficient solution. A lot of labor reforms and all that has to happen, looking at the big picture, and ensuring that labor wage and people get value for what they're being paid. It's a bigger question in itself than just one fixated 30,000 naira minimum wage. So it's not necessarily the wage in itself, because there are more cost implications, so we need to look at the big picture and get it right.
I want to really hear your thoughts on the police disagree as drunk soldier killed 3.
Well, on security, quite a lot of dicey things are going on. A lot of things are not clear, and we can't just take the conversation out there, hook, line, and sinker, just the way it comes to us. There are many more internal issues that need to be dealt with. One of the presidential candidates in 2019 spoke about police reforms and the likes, or security reforms. So there are a lot of security. What we see now, really, in terms of how the conversations are shaping out generally, are just the, snippets of what the effects are or what the issues are. These things are a lot more deeper than what we see on the headlines. So there needs to be more police or security reforms, and an internal ethics guide, disciplinary and all of that, to ensure that the process fits in correctly, and that you lead to that security.
Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper and see what's the big one here. We have soldier arraigned for raping varsity student. You find details on page 5 of the paper. Presidency suspends SPIP chair Obele. We also have the story of the drunk soldier killing 3 in Ogun captured here. Kwara Tribunal to rule on September 20. Oyo Commissioner nominees take oath. That's on the front page as well. Atiku's son-in-law lawyer arraigned. Let's go to the big one that's staring at us. It is the 3 billion naira fraud. EFCC quizzes head of service Oyoita. President may suspend top official. 600 million naira found in AIDS account. That's interesting. We also have this one that says Nigeria to save $20 billion from food import ban. Government Shiite clash over El-Zakzaky. And then we have this TIV Youth Council and civil society staging a protest in Abuja. That's the picture on your screen now. They're calling for a couple of things. Let's just take the headline. There is end TIV Junkun clashes now. TIV students, CSO tell Buhari. You can see on that banner they have stuff like Guardians of Democracy and Development condemn the Taraba killings. A call to anarchy is a threat to democracy. Nigerians should rise and expose politicians arming criminals to stir ethnic wars. let's embrace peace for democracy to thrive. That's some of the things written on the banner that we can see. On the back page of The Nation, we have comment and debates. Today, Olatunji is talking about the cave and the darkness. That's it there, the cave and the darkness. Bibi Niger, it seems to be in the fore. I'll just read that excerpt there for you. The image is made to order, tailored to us. An ideal, on the other hand, has a claim on us. It does not serve us. It goes on and on. On the back page there, it looks to be an interesting one to read. And then Hardball has what a man can do. There's a question mark at the end of that. What could that possibly be? You will definitely need to read it to get details for yourself. Gospel, over to you.
Yes, so I think I'll come back to this food importation ban first of all. The headline says Nigeria to save $20 billion from food importation ban. It's very easy to put out the headline caption and make people feel it's a wonderful move. You know, but I've come to realize that in terms of trying to solve a problem or find a solution to what has not worked, we over the years have not been very strategic about it, and we've not been very smart in the process. So yes, we know most likely we are going to save a lot. We already know that from the top of our minds that we're going to save a lot by banning food and all that. But you know, when you think of the bigger picture, like I mentioned earlier on, all of the infrastructure deficits, all of the farm to market deficits, all of the education deficits, all of the exports challenges and the likes, and then you have a cluster of, will I use the word now, different loopholes, you know, in terms of access to markets. You'll find out that there's a whole lot more than just banning food imports, you know. So before you ban an item for being imported, you have to ensure that you've built that efficiency in terms of processes to deliver on self-sufficiency. So there's a lot that are still questions around our self-sufficiency for food and all of this. It's not as easy as it sounds, and I would say that I think we're, in trying to solve this problem, we will be heading for more cost implications on the economy.
That doesn't seem good. I guess we'll move on to the next paper. We have This Day and a couple of headlines here. The big one is, after initial hiccups, El-Zakzaky commences treatment in India, decries tight security in hospital. FG, he breached his bail conditions. I saw a long press release on this earlier today, and it was enumerating the conduct of El-Zakzaky at the Indian hospital. But there's also another statement that has sort of cleared the air that they are now working in harmony, that things are going well. Well, let's see what the details are when you read this story in depth, and maybe you get to see the latest development in other papers, or even captured here as well. Army, police army trade words over killings in Isheri. Police army trade words over killings in Isheri. That's it on your front page. And just above the masthead of this day newspaper, we have presidency suspends Obele faces ICPC investigation. You find details on page 9. Stakeholders seek clarifications on forex ban for food imports. Man, LCCI others caution FG. That's what Gospel has been talking about for a while now, the caution that we need to exercise. While it seems all good. Buhari vows to end banditry kidnapping. That's another one. And of course, the president in his home Katsina, with the Katsina state governor during the inauguration of a road project in the state. On the back page of This Day newspaper, we have Olusegun Adeniyi talking about the hit squad of Taraba. The hit squad of Taraba. We have Sergeant Usman Dansumi killed in Taraba State. That's his picture you're looking at right now. Over to you.
So on the issues around kidnapping, security, I think there has to be a genuine political will, and then that has to translate into clear reform strategies. And it has to also, on the other hand, for the citizens, because I'm saying something around the Isheri and then those who are being kidnapped. So there has to be clear citizens agenda settings. The citizens have to be more aware about the power that they have. They have to be more aware about the role, they play as citizens. There has to be a lot more about citizens' education. What you have is even the illiterates. I don't want to even start from illiterates now. Even the literates are strongly biased in their opinions. People who seem to be stakeholders, core stakeholders in driving reform strategies are strongly biased about their opinions. So until that until we attain genuine political will, and then a system-wide citizenry awareness and objectiveness and that collective agenda setting. We are not ready yet. We're not started yet. And then on the political will end, like I mentioned earlier, reforms have to be very, very smart and strategic. And that would lead me to also speaking back again to the security issues. Seen on the headlines that you have both the police and the army clashing over words, it's a bit pathetic because, you now want to think of what's the hope for security for the ordinary man and all that. So reforms has to be more strategic, but the political will has to be so genuine. There has to be a system-wide citizen agenda setting that people are more aware about their roles as citizens and they eliminate biases because we're literally tearing ourselves apart, being the fact that some persons are way more educated, and it's quite a pity.
All right, let's see what this one is saying. And that's the Vanguard newspaper now. It says, Kirikiri prison better than Indian hospital. That's El-Zakzaky. It has a couple of riders. 6 return home, rejects treatment from unknown doctors. Hospital backpedals, begins treatment. El-Zakzaky is misbehaving in India. That's the federal government. Says he wants to check into a 5-star hotel. Okay, those are just the drama that's coming all the way from India to us. There's still some more recent development. You go find details of that story on page 8 of the paper. And then the slain policeman family briefs the press. We had that story earlier in our news, talking about getting to the culprits. Those that are involved, including the military personnel, should be seen to be punished for the matter. There's a sad-looking picture on the front page. Money laundering. Court remands Atiko's son-in-law, lawyer, one other in EFCC custody. That's it there for you. And Naira appreciates to 363.22 Naira to a dollar in the I&E window. That's a bit of business Naira watch on page 41. Let's go down a bit to where we have banditry. Buhari vows to flush out perpetrators. We also have 9 feared killed, house razed as gunmen invade Two Rivers community. Electricity, Senate backs sale of FG's 40% stakes in discos. And then we have the situation with Obele again captured here. Rape, Randy soldier dogged, remanded in police custody. Well, we hear all the initial action. We don't hear the follow-up, which is consistent, in this country, unfortunately. And there is this one on Forex. It says, Forex ban on food imports will cost job, force businesses out. That's NECA speaking. Details is on page 19. And on the back page, we have some sports stories. We'll get to that in a bit once we hear the thoughts of Gospel and some of these.
Yeah. So I want to speak to the Forex part. The standard is usually that the CBN is an independent body, but and there is an autonomy of that institution. That's what's expected. But in Nigeria, you have the the opposite, because you literally have the fiscal authorities making policy statements, way into the whole process, and you wonder if the CBN are aware. You wonder where is the independence of the institution. You wonder where are the checks and the balances. You wonder if we have come to agree that this is the way forward, an outright ban, and then its impact on, on the Forex market and the Naira. But then let me link that story to another where you said, where it was mentioned that the Naira appreciates to 363 Naira per dollar. These are seemingly interesting news, but it's not in any way a major move, for transformation, progress, and all of that. And I mean, that's because it's not also very sustainable because, I mean, to get the Naira to appreciate, there are a lot more questions you need to ask. There are a lot more work that needs to be done and all of that. Then it leads me back to the independence of the central bank. So the central bank, yes, they're doing a lot. A lot of interventions are going into other policy, other sectors and the likes. But then the question is, yes, it seems like they're veering off the core because they're also trying to manage the fiscal excesses on the fiscal side. You know, some things you see that the CBN does, you know, it's not necessarily their function, but looking at where we are now as a nation, you would say that is quite impressive because, I mean, it just means that somebody is trying to juggle on the other part that the other person has lost a bit of a focus on. But for the Naira, it has to go beyond just interventions to getting the value chain right, you know, getting the education right, getting the infrastructure right, getting the financing right, getting the access to marketing right, then getting the national narrative right. Because if you ask people outside there in the country, they prefer to affiliate themselves with brands that they can identify with over a period of time. So, but if you're going to lead a productive economy, then you have to also begin to tell your stories right. You know.
Yeah, so how do we get the national, you know, leadership sort right? Because and that is where it all starts.
Yeah, I agree. It all starts. I mean,
because they are the chief driver for all the other institutions will come under them in order to.
So every productive economy that produces and has a very, very, what's the word now? Active production chain or active production economy thrives on, I mean, that narrative thrives on two things. Number one, you have a working economy, right? And that is the logic side of things. You know, you're producing goods and services that are needed at home and can compete abroad. So once you've locked that area of logic, the next conversation is on your storytelling, your magic. So what do you want the world, or how do you want the world to see the country? So it's a strong leadership drive. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, but I mean, there are question marks around
everywhere.
If that leadership can grow a productive economy and then tell the story to the world in a way that they want it to be told. Because as much as you're not telling your story, somebody else is telling it for you in one way or the other. One product that cannot compete globally is telling the story in one way or the other. So stories are not being told by talking only or communicating verbally only. They're now being told by the quality of products that are being shipped out there. So some Nigerians even think, in fact, the other paper that I mentioned that will save $20 billion, some of them are saying, okay, there are lots of made in Nigeria products. Yes, I've seen quality made in Nigerian products, but majority cannot really stand the global competition in terms of standards and many other things. And what we call standard here cannot even compete in what they call, you understand, what the global stage calls standard. So we need to fix our functionality as a nation in terms of food security, in terms of what we are producing, in terms of the productive economy. And there are many things that it's a highly interconnected system, you know, education, laws, reform, security, you know, standards, a lot of things come into it. And when you can get that together, then you can now choose to tell your story in a way that it tells it. And every other element of this or every pocket of this production chain tells that story orderly. It cannot be a perfect process. A few things may have to be quote-unquote compromising.
Right, let's see the effort being expended.
Let's see the effort. So it is when we arrive at that level of a productive economy and a conscious, consistent storytelling of our national narrative and national heritage, that is when you can put the currency at a safe place, or that is when we can say the currency is at a safe place. Because as far as we are still largely import dependent, as far as we still have these bottlenecks around, the currency is at risk. That's why I tell you that this information right here is not sustainable, and this is just a slight marginal appreciation, which is also not sustainable. So we need a critical, what's the word now, transformation, something that can, you know, make the Naira not just appreciate, but appreciate to a point that it will not further depreciate anytime soon. Then I saw something else on security discourse and all that. I mean, it's interesting that some other parts of the value chain sell this power abroad. I mean, they export and they sell and they make money. So the question is, why don't we have that, and then others in other markets who do not also have that, we're selling to them. I think we need to also work on that privatization process that we once did. Now you mentioned that some of these businesses are insolvent. and the government wants to probably repossess them. And all the question is, what even determined, what were the criteria that were used to get those businesses in the picture in the first place? Were they based on who had the highest money or something? So we need to really define our values as a nation at the end of it.
Thank you very much.
Right.
We'll just take a look at some of the headlines on the Complete Sports and we'll wrap things up. The Complete Sports has this one, says, Iheanacho returns, Akpeyi dropped. Ahead Nigeria versus Ukraine friendly. That's it on your screen there. I think that should be underneath. We also have the story of Bayern to return for Sane in January. That's on the side. Zidane to resign over failed Pogba move. Omerua eager to realize full potential following permanent transfer to Legans. Okay, that's it on the front page for you. We also have the story of injured Ebuhi, doubtful for friendly. There are some other headlines here on the front page. Liverpool are UEFA Super Cup champions. There was a very exciting video of their excited celebration earlier on. That's it. There are other transfer stories on the back. You might want to go take a look at that. And for the Vanguard, we just look at it again. UEFA Super Cup, Liverpool compound Lampard's woes, beats Chelsea on penalties. We also have international friendly, Iheanacho Ezewuike return for Ukraine. Most of the stories are recaptured here. Super Eagles player asked me to stay, that's Raul. Why I joined Everton, that's it will be for you. These are some stories, sports headlines making the waves tonight for all our sports fans. Go take a look at the papers and grab a copy for yourself from the vendors. And that's how we're going to wrap things up, but not before I say a very big thank you to Gospel for coming on the program. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you for watching. Always a pleasure to know you are there. My name is Felicity Ezewuike. Have a pleasant day.